And so as I began to think about it in preparing for this talk, which is really all around attorney well-being, I began to ask myself questions like, so what is well-being? And it means what does it mean to be well? And not just physically, I'm not sick. That's how we tend to think of it. But what does it mean? I guess it would mean I was in a state of well-being, life would feel easy. It would feel peaceful. It would feel good.
Welcome to a new series that we are doing called The Healthy Lawyer Life. And today we are going to be sitting down with Dr. Bill Satterwhite to talk about a few very great things. Now, this is part one of a 7-part series, so you want to make sure you come back. But today we're going to talk about the 6 factors of dis-ease for lawyers. So let's welcome Dr. Bill to the show. Welcome to the show, Dr. Bill. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me, Terrell.
Awesome. It is a pleasure to have you. Now, you and I have connected over the years and have thankfully stayed in touch. And I've seen some of the presentations and stuff you've done online. But for the people who may not be familiar with you and your background, can you fill us in a little bit? Because you're a unique thing of a doctor and a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so fill us in a little bit about your background.
Yeah, it is not the classic sort of career path, right? So if your child needs career counseling, I'm either the best person to talk to or the worst person to talk to. It just depends. So after college, I went to law school and then became a healthcare lawyer in Charlotte for about 5 years. Decided to change tracks, took all the science prerequisites and the MCAT and headed to med school when I was 31 with kids ages 5, 3, and 1.
Wow.
Managed to get
Okay.
through all of that, become a pediatrician, and continue to see kids some to this day, but have gone through a progression of different leadership roles within one health system and then another. And now my full-time job is actually in healthcare consulting, really flying around the country with a team trying to help either health systems improve things that aren't going so well, or sometimes help them pull out of a tailspin. So it's been that sort of a thing. And really from the beginning, one of my roles was the chief health and wellness officer at an academic institution. And I have very much spent a lot of time sort of thinking in this lane, especially for busy professionals like attorneys. It's a hard place to be. It's just
Mhm.
a hard place to be.
I was talking to a friend of mine that we were going to be recording this series, and one of his first questions was like, which one did he do first? Did he become a lawyer first
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
doctor
yeah, yeah.
first?
Yeah. Everyone wants to know that. It's an unusual combination. Not that many people do it. Most have become a doctor first, mostly because that's a pretty long, arduous path. And that's hard to do when you're 30 to 40 years old, as opposed to 25 to 35. In law school, it's 3 years. And sometimes people can do that part time. You can't do med school part time. So it's backwards from most.
Okay. But I guess it's given you a very interesting perspective from just being knowing so much about the legal industry, having gone through law school, been in
Yeah.
that environment, and knowing so many lawyers, and then becoming a
Mhm.
medical doctor. I'm guessing while you were going through your training, were there things that you were seeing as you were studying? Ooh, yeah, lawyers have that issue, or yeah, I used to experience this, or were there things like that jumped out to you as you were going through your medical training?
Yeah, I think there are differences and similarities between the two of them. Certainly in the similarity part, some of the things that are the same are it's a hard road to get there. There's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, a lot of performance. You have to perform well. People that, manage to get in law school or med school and finish it all and get licensed, that's a very small percentage of people in the United States. There are about 1 million licensed doctors and 1 million or so licensed attorneys in the US. That's out of 330 million people. It's not a
Wow.
lot. And it's a high peak. And I'll facetiously say, maybe it's like making a professional sports team or something. Everyone thinks, oh, I'm an athlete, I could do that. You're like, no, almost no one can. And so it's that same thing. But what happens is it's a pressure cooker that you go into, you get used to that high level of stress. You assume that's normal. you come out into practice, whether that's law or medicine, and you still have that desire to, always get it right, always be at your best, always have the answer, always perform well. And that becomes who you identify yourself as, this highly successful person. And there's tons of stress within that. And in law, one of the stressful things is in many areas, not all, but many, you actually do have another lawyer on the other side. Medicine is a doctor, at least everyone's in it together, right? We're trying to help this patient get well. And you may think we should do this or that. I may think this other thing, but we're not actually going against each other. And so, for much of the business world, the real estate world, the divorce, the litigation, you have a gladiator on the other side. And so, there is, even if it's pleasant, but often it's not, there is someone that you are really battling with. And that's a different kind of setup that I feel like just ramps up that pressure even more than, more or less in medicine, everyone's trying to roll in the same direction. And here you have something in the middle that people each have a different view on how it should go.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense because even just the terminology we work with a lot of law firms and just the terminology of opposing counsel,
Yeah,
it just sets
opposing.
in the tension.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly, yeah, that's great. I hadn't thought about that. That's exactly right. You're like, okay, that's the opposition over there. You're like, I thought we were trying to resolve this. No, opposition. Yeah.
Gotcha. So I want to ask about, because I got a chance to check out your presentation that you had done, where you talked about the 6 factors
Yeah.
of dis-ease for lawyers. So can you give us some insight into those 6 factors? Because I know throughout the rest of this series, we're going to dive deeper on each
Yeah.
one of those, but can you
Yeah.
give us an overview of what those 6 factors are?
hmm Yeah, sure. So I'll set it up and frame it up for you. If you think about somebody who is, let's say, a professional tennis player, it's summertime, there's professional tournaments going on. You want to be your best, do the best you can. But if you have any part of your body that is not doing well, that is going to hinder you. So you may say, oh, I'm number one in the world. Yeah, but you have Achilles tendonitis and that's going to be hard for you. Or you have tennis elbow, that's going to slow you down. Or maybe you're depressed because it's been a hard season. That's going to be hard. And so, this idea of saying, how do we, in order to perform at our best, whatever that context is, but certainly as an attorney, the things in life that create difficulty are going to still weigh you down when you come to work. We like to say, when I come to work, I'll check all that at the door and I just come in as perfect bill, doctor, lawyer, consultant. But that's not really true. And so as I began to think about it in preparing for this talk, which is really all around attorney well-being, I began to ask myself questions like, so what is well-being? And it means being, what does it mean to be well? And not just physically well, I'm not sick. That's how we tend to think of it. But what does it mean? I guess it would mean I was in a state of well-being, being life would feel easy. It would feel peaceful. It would feel good. And so what are the areas that create dis-ease for me? And maybe I need to work on those because the more I get those to a healthy spot, then the healthier I'm actually going to be overall, the more in a place of well-being I'm going to be, and the better I will do in this job that I have as an attorney. So those 6 areas really are work, finances, fitness, and we'll unpack that more in the future, but that's not like physical fitness, although that can be part of it. It's really more this idea of fitness for duty. What are the things in life that I actually need to be fit for? So I'm a grandfather of 8. I don't need to be fit to do a marathon. I need to be fit to carry a grandchild on each hip for 3 blocks to the park. Right? That's what I need to be fit for. And so that helps orient because in America right now, we often raise this idea of your health status as the number one goal in life. The chief end of man is to be super healthy and get a better time on your triathlete competition, but it's really what do you need to be fit for? And the next one is actually fun. So we tend to dismiss fun, but fun is really another word for play, and play means you're doing stuff that is recreational, that has no other purpose than you're just doing it because it's fun to do. Like children are great at this, right? You see them doing something and you're like, why in the world are they doing that? That's going nowhere. So, yeah, that's called play, right? Is there anything going to happen with this? Nope. I'm just doing it. And if you really understand this idea of fun and recreation is really the word recreation, right? It is recreating you, energy and life. And that is why we need to do it. Now, we do have a terrible habit of taking things that are fun and turning them into work or something else to achieve. I want to lower my golf score by 3 more strokes. Okay, that's not fun. That's now a competition. The next one is friends. Friends are extremely important in being in a place of well-being. If you don't have friends, you basically are not going to be. That's the bottom line on that one. And then the last one is family. And as we dive into that, a few things about how to really get to a place of sort of peace and ease and well-being with your family of origin, because we don't pick our families. And you don't pick your parents, you don't pick your siblings. In fact, I didn't pick my children either. Right? They just came out as a certain size, shape, personality. I couldn't go, that one's kind of like, that's abrasive. Can I trade? I want to trade it in. I'm sending it back to Amazon, right? I still got my 30 days. And so those are the areas: work, finance, fitness for duty, fun, friends, and family. And how can I, as a whole human being, knowing that all of those are part of who I am and how I function every day, how can each one of those be in a very settled place so that when I come to work, like the tennis player, my body is not hurting anywhere. I don't come into it injured, right? That's the
Wow.
framework.
I think that's an amazing point. When you think about it, as you talked about, like with the tennis player, if one part of your body is off, like you could be stellar in
Yeah,
everything else, but let's say if there, like I said, there's an injury in just your right leg, it's gonna affect your entire game. Like
yeah, the entire game. That's right.
you can have the strongest arms, you can have the strongest left leg, but if your right leg is injured, like your entire game will be impacted by it. And I often wonder, like, how many people stop to think about that? Hey, if you're hurting in one area of your life or you're unhealthy in one
Yeah,
area of your life, like
yeah,
the impact that it plays out on how you show up as a lawyer, how you show up as the leader of a law firm, like how you show up in your personal life, your relationship with family, friends, or all of those
right,
things are
right.
impacted.
They are very impacted. That's exactly right, Terrell. And I think of 2 examples, one personal and then one analogy. The personal one is at one point while I was really seeing kids full time as a pediatrician, we had a child get really sick. And I remember coming home one day completely exhausted after seeing kids. And I said, honey, I don't think I can do this job anymore. I am so emotionally drained that I have no empathy for this poor mother who's had her first baby and the breastfeeding is going poorly. And I'm like, my tank is empty. And that's one of those examples of that there was stuff going on that was just deep and wide. And yeah, that came to work with me because I took my whole body to work: body, mind, spirit, emotions, everything. The other harsh example, which I'm making up, but if I'm a police officer and I am having lots of fights with my wife, then and I can't resolve that conflict, then I'm on duty. I'm going to suit up, strap on my gun, and then I get called to a domestic dispute to help solve that conflict. I can't even solve it in my own house. And so you begin to realize how much all of this impacts who we are and how we show up at work, even if we've gotten really good at mastering it and controlling it, at least to some extent, we think. And so that's really this framework for the idea of if these major areas of life can be rightly ordered in the right place, and then I can come to work uninjured and be able to perform at my best. And I don't have a short trigger for things when the opposing counsel does something or when my client does something, because I have resolved lots of things just in my life that might set that off.
So it is going to be a great series. So I would say everyone who is listening, make sure you continue to tune in because it is going to be a 7-part series. This is part number 1, but we are going to dive into each of those 6 factors in following episodes. So Dr. Bill, thank you for
Of
joining me for
course.
this
Thank you for
first
having me
episode.
today. Yep.
Absolutely. I will say, everyone, thanks for tuning in and be sure to come back for the rest of the series. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Law Firm and Finance Show, where we give you great content that helps you build a more successful law firm. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on all platforms and follow us for more content.